It's nice to have a secondary hand and not just a gun. It's a shame it gets chopped up later in the movie. That was because you were pointing it at me. I was only doing self-defense. Oh, spare me! Sup, guys? And in this video, we're going to be taking a look at the new Transformers Studio Series, well, it's pretty much a knockoff, of the Studio Series 13 Megatron. Now, I gotta say, this is an extraordinary repaint of the original Studio Series figure. The transition from Games Workshop gray to this metallic silver that surprisingly doesn't paint chip, unlike the other Bayway knockoff of Megatron, is magnificent. And if you're wondering, yes, this is the same knockoff company, that being Bayway, that does a lot of other really impressive knockoff repaints and minor remolds. And this being the, is this still earth-shattering or something? Is the latest edition. Now, before we continue talking about this figure, let's take a quick look at his packaging. And I gotta say, this is some pretty good packaging. However, recently, Bayway has resorted to closed-in box art packaging, rather than showing the figure behind some plastic windows. Yeah, I wonder what that's about. Anyways, we get this nice CGI artwork of Revenge of the Fallen Megatron, in which the shoulders appear to be inaccurate. On the top is boring, on the bottom is also boring, on the side is an extended arm, I guess, and on the other side is basically the same thing. When you turn to the back, you get a little bit more info on the product that you get inside the packaging, as well as some nice product shots. Tell you what, that looks really good. Anyways, back to the figure. Now, starting off, painting and sculpting, pretty good. For being one of the earliest Studio Series figures in the line, Hasbro still did an amazing job depicting the character in a CGI form into figure form. And Hasbro went on to make a Target exclusive battle damaged repaint of this figure, in which, in my opinion, is a much better repaint of the figure. Plus, the head looks really menacing too, but also at the same time disgusting. Anyways, both of the official Hasbro figures are very expensive, whereas this guy was only like 25 bucks. I am not kidding. I picked this figure up on AliExpress, which hopefully he's still available. Not too sure, gonna have to check that one. Also, this metallic finish looks really good. It makes the figure look a little bit more premium-ish. The finish is so nice, and I'm really glad that the paint doesn't chip off. That would have been very frustrating, which is something that unfortunately plagued the previous Bayway Megatron. Turning to the backpack, surprisingly, no alternate mode kibble. Oh, and guess what? Remember those annoying back pieces on the legs? Well, there's a metallic rail keeping it in place, and these are made out of die-cast. How cool is that? Oh, and the quality's not too shabby. The joints are alright, but there are some stiff joints, as seen with the shoulder over here. Also, I've noticed this now, but looks like there's some hieroglyphics on Megatron's shoulder. That's pretty impressive for Bayway to integrate that onto the figure, which is something that doesn't exist for the official Hasbro figure. And for the feet, it's a little bit easier to split the toes out, and they actually stay in place. They don't abruptly close in like they did on the original. With the original, you tried opening these up, there would be this deliberate stopping mechanism right here that would push this piece right back to where it was without you looking at it. And for me, that was quite frustrating for my copy, as the toes were a little bit loose. Whereas with the Bayway knockoff, that's fixed, and the joints are a little tight for this thing. And as you can see, the wings that look like they were from the DNA upgrade kit are implemented onto this piece right here. We'll get to the whole DNA upgrade kit thing a little bit later. Now, I have not checked if this is removable or not. I don't want it to be removed. I prefer it intact. Anyways, I think it's time we talk about his accessories. Starting off with this extra headpiece, which looks empty. It's because it's swappable with the original head. And then you get to see the endoskeleton of Megatron. Ugh, that looks disgusting. Anyways, you just plug it on right over here, and for some reason I find some trouble plugging that onto there, but hey, looks like I managed. And there you go, there's Megatron, just without a few pieces on his head. And of course the arm is an accessory itself, as it is the fusion cannon of Megatron, which is quite a powerful fusion cannon, as it was the thing that Megatron used to kill Optimus, and Megatron could switch his cannon into a different setting where the cannon has burst mode. And of course, he has the sword, which flings out like that. Anyways, this is actually removable, thankfully. However, it requires a little bit more force to snap it off. And I do recommend to be a little careful, as this could probably snap off, as the quality on a knockoff is different than the original Hasbro product. But anyways, there is a substitute for that arm cannon, and it is this, the claw arm, which is one of my favorite accessories that Megatron comes with in the set. Arm cannon plugs to here. And there you have Megatron with his secondary arm. And his fingers are a little articulated, with two of them over here having an extra opposable fingertip. And lastly, he comes with wings that are primarily used for his alternate mode. As in the movie, he actually was seen flying around. His tank somehow became a flying tank. That's interesting. Anyways, for robot mode, they could be used as gap fillers. Though you might want to untap some parts right here. Move this out. And then this gap right here, you should be able to tab it on like so. Same thing with the other side. Anyways, to fold them in, you just fold this in and then have it right there. And then fold this one in. Now, for some reason, this one's more loose because this part right here kind of sucks. However, that's because there's a gappage over here, which is supposed to be like that. So that way, when you transform this guy, this thumb right here serves as a gap filler. However, that leads to a loose disadvantage for this wing right here, and it kind of sucks. Anyways, you just fold it in the same as you would the other side, and it tabbed off. That's great. And be sure to straighten them out and close them all the way in, so that way these little pieces right here are sticking out. And there you go. There's a gap-filled, well, kind of, gap-filled Revenge of the Fallen Megatron with extras added on to the back. Now, one thing to note is that all of these extra accessories that Megatron comes with here are based off the DNA design upgrade kit for the original Studio Series Megatron, in which that upgrade kit actually has a second version for the battle damaged Studio Series Megatron, which is quite impressive for DNA. Bayway, however, made a product where you could buy the figure and the upgrade kit alongside that, with a nice little metallic silver repaint. And tell you what, this looks nice with all of the extra accessories. And now moving on to articulation. Starting off, ball joint at the head, ups and downs, and there actually is another hinge joint over here which allows for a double up and down. And then of course you gotta add this piece right here. So yeah, triple hinged up and down, which is pretty impressive. And a swivel. The shoulder mortars, I guess if you want to call them, also are articulated, which I believe is primarily used for the alternate mode, but they do appear as if they could still be used in robot mode. Full rotation at the arm, bend at the shoulder, bicep swivel, bend at the elbow, and on the arm to the right over here, there is a set of 3 fingers molded into each other that are all in one hinge joint right there. Whereas with the other 2, same thing, except there's only 2 fingers. This is a very weird choice of articulation, and to me it just doesn't make any sense. And there is a slight thumb articulation for the arm cannon. But if we bring in the swappable claw arm, hinge joint at the thumb, or at least it's the thumb, and another hinge joint over here, and then for the bottom ones there's a double hinge joint, which is pretty cool. Same thing with the other one. Moving down to the legs, beautiful spread at the legs. Leg can move forward, can move backwards. Thigh rotation, bend at the knee, unless you want to extend it. After all, this is a chicken hinge. Back kneecap, or whatever you want to call this thing, moves out or up and down. The foot is on a pivot joint, which is pretty cool. And some toes. And I believe that is the total coverage of the articulation. Now moving on to size comparison. Starting off with the original Studio Series 13 Megatron, the Studio Series 31 Target exclusive battle damage repaint of Megatron. Let me move this down a bit. Studio Series Movie 1 Megatron, the Bayway knockoff of the Studio Series Movie 1 Megatron, Studio Series Dark of the Moon Leader Class Megatron, in which, what? Are you serious? How is this guy taller than this guy? This guy's a leader class. This is supposed to be the Voyager scale. Sheesh. Here he is next to Bayway's other latest creation, that being Spock, or Shockwave, Studio Series Hieroglyphic Starscream, Studio Series Soundwave, Studio Series Sideways, Studio Series Grindor. Here he is next to his pupil, the Fallen. Here he is next to the Studio Series 05 Optimus, Studio Series 32 Optimus. Hope we get a battle damage version of this figure, more so a minor remold. That's probably not going to happen. Sam Witwicky. And lastly, here he is next to Devastator. I thought, why not? Don't mind all the other figures. However, there is a knockoff for this guy. It's just I don't feel like double dipping on this figure. And the gang's all here. Well, minus the other Constructicons, minus a few Decepticon protoforms, and minus a Desert Repainted Bone Crusher with guns. But anyways, they're all here. And we're missing a proper Demolisher and payload. Okay, let's just get to transformation. Now, starting off, I find it best to just remove these, or I don't know, just find a way to remove them. If you do have the arm cannon, be sure to fold in the thumb, fold in the toes, make sure the arms are straightened. Now, with the right arm, when you move it outwards, it just tabs in right there. However, for this one, not so much, in which with the Hasbro Studio Series figures, it was the other way around. As this would click in, this, however, would not. Anyways, rotate them and make sure they're facing backwards, or I think that's how it's supposed to be, yeah. Although I do recommend leaving them out, as what we're going to do next is work on the legs. First off, what you want to do is extend this, in which I'm glad they kept this in, because this is something I didn't notice with the original Studio Series figure, but when you move this out, you make sure this closes in, and then make sure you close that in as well. Push this down, and then push this down, move this down as well. Leave that there. We're not going to open it out yet, but anyways, you're just going to move that down as well. Rotate the thigh. Same process implies with the other side. And then what you're going to do next is untab this and then leave the head out like so. Open the back section outwards, straighten it out, and then what I personally recommend you do is leave this out, or just snap them off so you can tab them back in. It's easier that way. Untab this. You do the same thing for the other side. Shift this backwards and then straighten that out. Then close that in. And then over here, there should be a tab that will peg into that slot right there. Make sure it tabs in. For some reason, it's a little hard to do on the knockoff. I'm not sure why. Anyways, you do the same thing for the other side. And then finally, you shift this backwards, and there should be a tab right there that will peg into a slot somewhere around that shoulder. You can't see it because there's a shadow blocking it, but anyways, it closes in right there. Anyways, shift this like so. Move this up as well. And there should be a slot right there that will peg into that tab right there. Make sure both of them join in together. Oh, and make sure the head is facing upward, so that way this makes things easier for you to have that right there. And then it's time for gap fillers, in which this just goes right there. You do the same thing for the other side. And then next what you're going to do is leave these outwards like so. And there you go. There you have Megatron in his alternate mode. And boy oh boy does this look very accurate to his Metal Slug alternate mode in Revenge of the Fallen. The treads look very nice. The guns look nice too. However, the articulation to move this around is a little limited, as it only moves like that, I guess. Oh, and of course, there's the head. Not sure why the head was designed to just stay there rather than transform somewhere inside the tank, I guess. However, there is something I find a little weird, and it is a kibble over here, that being this. I have no idea why it's like that. It doesn't go anywhere else, so yeah. And then, of course, the stick on the top of the shoulder cannon. I mean, not shoulder cannon, the arm cannon sticking out like so. Unless Megatron does a quick reverse to puncture the leg of one of his opponents, I don't see that being useful. Although, if he fires his cannon on the back, that could either be used as rear defense or an extra boost. And if you want articulation for his cannon, you're going to have to untab that, I guess. And then that should allow a little bit more up and down, but it doesn't really work. That's why these little cannons are over here. Now, this figure does feature some extras that weren't featured in the original Studio Series figure, that being that there is actually some wings, which look nice, I guess, but for the bigger wings, they go right in the back right here. However, the case does not work with the other side, as it is difficult to plug this in. For some reason, this piece right here is blocking the way for this to move down or something. Hold up. I got something. No, not really. However, if you do in fact swap this out, then this would be easier to plug the other side of the wing onto that slot. But in order to do so, you're going to have to undo a lot of steps, as you're going to have to transform this guy, and then you're going to have to snap the arm off, which is a pain in the butt to snap on, and then you're going to have to snap this on, and then do all of that again, which is something I did anyways, because I wanted to have this dually intact. And besides, it looks good. Looks really nice. I find the idea quite peculiar, however, for a tank to have wings. But hey, Transformers can make that possible. Now, the only method of folding them in, or at least I know, is just this, I guess, sort of. The front one is a little bit more satisfying as you just do that. And to store in the rest of the accessories, not really. The alternate face mold doesn't go anywhere, and to store the extra arm, not so much. It's either the arm cannon or just the claw arm. Honestly, it's just better if you have the claw arm whilst transforming this thing. Yeah, it doesn't tab into that tab right there, but it still stays there. It doesn't go anywhere. And it allows clearance for the other wing. Whilst at the same time, you could possibly cheat and have the thumb right there. However, there is still a hollow gap, which was something that the arm cannon covered up. And for a little metal slug size comparison, here he is next to the other Hasbro metal slugs. So yeah, a nice little tank army going on right here. And lastly, because why not, let's do a little comparison with the Bayway knockoff of Shockwave, or Spock. Looking good, looking good. Not gonna lie, the two latest Bayway knockoffs have been pretty good. And it appears as if this duo right here is unstoppable. Both can be on the ground and just start blasting things left and right, or one could be flying around whilst the other is blasting and stuff. Either way, both would make an unstoppable force, in which would probably give Optimus Prime a run for his money. Comment down below which tank mode is better, Megatrons or Shockwaves or Spocks. I can't stop calling him that. It's just funny that they just called him Spock. Anyways, I think that's pretty much it. I think that's all I had to say for this guy. Overall, this figure's awesome. Bit of an improvement to the original, especially with the claw arm and the paint scheme. If you want to get him, he's available on AliExpress for about a good 25 bucks or so, along with Spock. And for any other Bayway figures to look forward to later this year, we've got Bayway 102 Rise of the Beast Optimus and the Bayway Jetfire, which is kind of new. It's out for pre-order on Show Z Store if you want to go check that out. But anyways, that's another figure for another review, for another story, for another time. If you like what you saw in this video, be sure to slam that like button, share this with your friends as well, turn on post notifications so that way you don't miss another video, and be sure to hit that big red subscribe button. We're doing magnificently on this channel. And yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. See ya!